What's up, nostalgic fans? Nostalgic Row here. Gonna try things a little differently today here with this video. I really wanted to make a video in response to the Ninja Turtles movie, and I thought this might be the better way to approach that type of video, where I'm just gonna kind of talk off the cuff and express my opinions on what I felt about the movie and what I see for the future of the franchise. So anyway, obviously Ninja Turtles just came out this past weekend. It was #1 in the box office. Yeah, but the critics and a lot of fans, they hated it. I think Rotten Tomatoes had about 17% in terms of where the ranking was with all the critics. And really, I've seen a lot of fans, a lot of different YouTubers out there and stuff like that saying, oh, the movie's terrible and all this stuff. And I know I'm in the minority of this, but I actually thought the movie was pretty good. Now, my perspective of the movie, though, on why I think is good, is that it's because it could have been so much worse. I mean, when you think about it, back when they first announced this movie, back when they started talking about early things, when a script got leaked, things like that, you have to remember that this movie was going to be total crap. I mean, the Shredder was going to be Colonel Shredder, and the Turtles were actually aliens from another planet, a turtle planet. And Splinter was part of that too, of being an alien and all this stuff. And the Mutagen then, after Micheal Bay said, yeah, they're going to be all aliens, and people got mad. Then it was like, well, the Mutagen's going to be alien and all this stuff. And and then that script leaked, which actually reading that script that had leaked, I got about halfway through, I think, because I don't know if a full script got leaked or not, but what I read anyway was about half of it. And I actually kind of liked that script to where it was going, but at the same time too, admittedly, it didn't feel like Ninja Turtles. It felt like it should have been something else. So when I went in to see the movie, I really had no expectations. I mean, I'm not a Micheal Bay fan. I think the Transformers franchise is just terrible. And I've never really been a fan of his movies. So knowing that he was the producer behind it, and I didn't really know anything about the director, I hadn't really seen any of his films, Jonathan Liebsman. I didn't really have high expectations. And then as things started coming out about the movie, I was trying to be optimistic, but then initially when I first saw what the Turtles looked like, I was like a lot of you, and I was like, oh, this is bad. This is going to be bad. But what bugged me about the Turtles wasn't so much their face. Obviously, a lot of criticism about how they looked and that they didn't have their typical beaks and stuff like that, and they looked more human, and that didn't really bother me. That I didn't mind. It was more of that how they're dressed up. Like I kind of liked how Leonardo was. I thought he looked cool, and Raphael, I was okay with it. I wasn't a biggest fan, but it was my biggest offenders was really Michelangelo and Donatello. Donatello with the I don't even know, the computer stuff and everything on his back. It didn't look right. It just seemed awkward. It seemed bulky. And then Michelangelo specifically, there was a Halloween costume. That's how he first got leaked, or at least how I first saw him anyway. And he had like the jeans on and sweatshirt tied over, and I was just like, what is going on here? Like a lot of you too, is just kind of like, what? Hold on, take a step back. This is going to be bad. And so that was really like my big thing, was that the Turtles did not look right. And then when I saw stuff of when they showed Shredder, I was actually then more of like, okay, well, Shredder, they looked to have gotten pretty close to, they actually tried some different things here. His armor is way bigger, but I think it might work for me. So then I started kind of leaning more towards, all right, this should be fine. And then before all that, obviously, was the casting of Megan Fox, which as April O'Neil, which a lot of people didn't like. And I personally, too, was like, well, it's not going to work probably, but whatever. At this point, let's just see what happens. And so with all this in mind, remembering the old script and everything like that, I kind of just desensitized myself of everything that I had come across, read, watched, or whatever. When the first trailers came out, I was kind of seeing what they were possibly doing, but I still was kind of reserved on it. And then when they kind of mentioned about, oh, there's Vern Fenwick in there too, that's Will Arnett, and then Whoopi Goldberg being Bernadette Thompson or whatever, it was kind of like, okay, you're starting to stretch me a little bit here, but I was trying to stay optimistic about it. but also kind of expecting what everyone else was saying, which is that this movie was going to be a total flop, total failure. And so I went into the theater. I did the best I could just to kind of wipe my mind clean of everything I saw, and just said, okay, let's just take it in. Let's just let this be what it's going to be. And I walked out of that theater actually really happy and really impressed with what they came up with, because again, I think the reason why I liked it so much is because it did have crap written all over it. I mean, was the movie a great movie? No, I will not say that. Does it surpass the first Ninja Turtles movie? No, I don't think so. I think the first Ninja Turtles movie, for its time and everything like that, I think it hit everything on the head the way it needed to. This movie, I think you just have to keep in mind that this is a reboot, this is a re-imaging. And I think that's what a lot of people failed to recognize with this movie, is that this wasn't going to be your typical Ninja Turtles movie. This was going to be something new, something different. And so when people saw all these different things, they're like, nope, that's not the way it is. But when you watch the movie, you have to realize that the turtles themselves, their attitude, their personalities, that's all still intact. They didn't change the turtles in the sense that, yeah, these are completely different. Leonardo's the funny one now and all that. Like, no, they kept the personalities in check. Splinter, they kept in check with his personality as well. He was actually, Splinter was actually kind of funny because he was actually a lot meaner to the turtles. Which I actually kind of dug. So as far as the heart of the turtles themselves, I thought they did a good job. They kind of kept things together. And what I really liked about these turtles too is that a common complaint was like, well, look how big they are, how hulking they are. And watching this, it's like, now I see where, yeah, if the turtles had to take on 100 foot soldiers at once, they could do it. And I wouldn't think twice about it and be like, yeah, they totally can do it. Whereas if we got like the 4 foot tall Ninja Turtles from like the cartoon series and stuff like that, no, like that's not as believable. Like, this is more of a realistic setting than the other films, and I think that's why it worked for me. As far as the casting was concerned, with Megan Fox being April O'Neil, I'll admittedly say that I've never seen anything that I really like Megan Fox in, and this movie isn't necessarily an exception, but she didn't do anything to make me hate her in the movie. I thought she did a decent job of just playing April O'Neil. Like, was it totally believable that, like, was she better than any of the other versions and characters of April O'Neil? Not necessarily, but she wasn't bad at it. So with her portrayal, I'm kind of interested in it. Now, her backstory with the whole thing, April's backstory in this film, yes, you can critique. But as far as Megan Fox portraying April, I think she did well. I think she kind of held things together. And she did what was asked of her, which was just to basically not screw it up, and she didn't. I don't think. I think she actually did a decent job. As far as Will Arnett's concerned, being for Vern Fenwick, I was for it because I'm not a big Arnett fan, but I was like, okay, I could see him playing kind of that sleazy guy that we saw in the original cartoon series. But I was actually kind of disappointed in him, not with Will Arnett, the actor. I thought as the actor, he did everything he could and what he was asked of him in this film. But I personally felt that the age gap between the two. So April, I don't know if they necessarily say how old April is supposed to be, but obviously Megan Fox in real life is 28. Will Arnett's 44. You could see that age difference between the two in the film. And for the fact that Arnett his whole character is basically there to be sort of a comedic effect, but mainly his comedy was just to hit on April. And to me, a younger Vern might have been better suited for that, especially if in the future films here they're going to kind of play off the fact that Mikey and Vern are trying to fight for April's heart or something like that. Or even if Casey Jones, if he does appear in these future films, obviously he is a love interest in most other adaptations of the Turtles. So there could be an interesting triangle there, but if Vern is supposed to be a younger character as well, like if April's supposed to be more like her 30s and so is Vern, then I feel like Arnett's casting was just off because, like I said, it wasn't anything that Will Arnett did as an actor. It's just that he is obviously much older than Megan Fox, and so that's why it didn't work for me. But Arnett himself, I thought he was pretty solid in the film. And so I am looking forward to seeing what they do with his character, and hopefully they get away from that whole love aspect of him. But if they do or not, we'll see. As far as Shredder and Eric Sachs and Karai are concerned, they weren't that important. For them to be the major bad guys, you would expect to see a little bit more plot thought out with them, but not really. Basically, Eric Sachs is Baxter Stockman, essentially, and Karai is somewhat a leader of the Foot Clan, and with obviously her boss being the Shredder, and that's about all the more that they establish, is that they all work together, with Sachs being kind of the mastermind for technology and stuff. And then Karai is very brief in the film, other than that she leads the commandos of the foot soldiers out on these missions. And then Shredder, once they establish early on that he's obviously a master ninja and all this stuff, and then he's out there and he's clearly bigger, faster, stronger in his suit. So it'll be interesting to see how the suit, because the trailers made it seem like this suit was going to be something major, and for a little while there I was almost wondering if it was a robotic Shredder, and that we weren't actually going to get a physical Shredder. So I did like the fact that we do see a physical Shredder, but he's not really fleshed out. Neither is Eric Sachs, neither is Karai. So I'm interested to see where they're going to take those characters. And as a plot as a whole, then, with the Turtles, I think that's actually worked to their benefit of not really fleshing out all the characters, because in the first 5 minutes, we're told about, we're kind of introduced to the fact of the Turtles, and then they go out and they beat up some bad guys or whatever, and then April kind of uncovers them, and then there's a really weak backstory about how April's father worked with Eric Sachs, and then she actually knew the Ninja Turtles because they were tested on, and then she saved them, and she's the one who put them in the sewers, but then they became the Ninja Turtles that they were, unknowingly to her. So that was kind of weak, and that was like the first 20 minutes of the film. So, but I think the reason why, again, that I think it worked and I liked it is that typically in these reboots, origin story films, stuff like that you see, they focus a lot of time on like, okay, they've become this superhero or whatever. Now they have to fight with their demons and really accept the fact that they're these superheroes now. And Turtles didn't do that. It set up that like, okay, yeah, they're getting ready. This is actually kind of their first missions out on the streets, as is established early on, and that was just it. They established that like, yeah, this is their first missions, and then boom, they just went off with it. Did they really focus on the plot later on? Is that the fact that like, oh, April saved them and stuff like that? No, like they just basically said like, oh yeah, there's a connection here. We all knew each other before we really were conscious of being who we are, because Splinter's really the only one that really remembers April, and April has to go back and find some tapes before she realizes she remembers it. But that's about it. That's all it's established with it, is that it's there, and then all of a sudden it's just jam-packed action, a lot of things going on. And I like that. I think that's what really made the film, was that they didn't dwell on all these other things that most reboots starting of franchises would do. It just went straight to the action once it kind of set the general premise of what's going on. And like I said, I guess I really like that, because then it gave us a solid 60, 80 minutes, however long it was, of just nonstop turtle action. And you saw lots of fighting. There was a lot of banter back and forth and stuff like that. And that's what I really, really enjoyed about it. And I'm glad that they took the direction that they did. And again, like I said, was a plot the best thing or greatest thing ever? No, there's a lot of holes, a lot of things that you're just like, what, really? That's how you're answering it? But because they move so quickly, like as soon as they announce something, then they're like, okay, but we're moving on. And that's what I liked, is that I didn't sit there the whole entire time while I watched the movie being like, well, that's not right, and that doesn't work, and what's this about? It was just boom, 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 and you immediately forgot about it. But then later on, yeah, you could pick it apart. But that's what I think a lot of guys are focusing on, is a lot of these reviewers, is that they're like, well, we're expecting this and this and this and this, and it didn't deliver that, and it didn't do something like this, and well, the cartoon was like this, and the comic book was like that. And I guess I'm looking at it as this is a whole new franchise, so whatever they do with it, nothing else happened. So if they did want to totally change things up and it didn't work, then yeah, we could critique it that way and say, yeah, it didn't work. But how they established everything, how they put everything together, it worked. It's weak, but it works. And so it has me excited on what they will do next, because they've obviously already announced that there's going to be a sequel. I have already read rumors that they're going to Dimension X. Bebop and Rocksteady will be involved, and I'm still curious too, because is Shredder, with the way that Shredder was fighting and stuff like that, how much of that was the suit and how much was that maybe Shredder's Krang, like he was in some other stuff, and that Shredder is just a being, but really he's an Utron. I'm really curious, because with this world that they've established now, all that can happen. And that, if you go back to the original trilogy, there's no way that would have happened. And the reality is that after that first movie kind of established things, the other two, I mean, if you really look at them, there's not a whole lot going on for them. They're both pretty weak movies compared to the first one, and especially, I mean, the third one is a really bad. And if you want to include the fourth movie, the TMNT cartoon, which I've read different things saying like, yeah, it is part of that universe, but not really. It's kind of its own offshoot. But they obviously have some things in there that show you that, like, yeah, no, it was part of that universe. So I just think that with what they did with the current Ninja Turtles, again, not a great film by any means. Like, if you really want to pick it apart, you can, and you can hate on it if you want. It would be easy to, but if you consider everything that you know about going into this film, I think they actually did a really good job of just delivering a solid action film that's Ninja Turtles. And I think that's what is key, that in the future they can try working more on the story and a plot. But they didn't screw up what the essence of the Ninja Turtles was. They missed on some other things, but it didn't hurt the film, and it didn't hurt the franchise. And I guess that's the biggest thing I took away from it all, is that the Ninja Turtles franchise is still intact and well. I haven't had a chance to watch the new Nickelodeon show, but I've watched all the other shows, and that's where they at least still have that down. Because if this was going to be something that was like Next Mutation bad, yeah, this would have killed the franchise. But I mean, this movie is easily going to make it, probably, but I shouldn't say easily, but it should make around 150 million just in the States. And for a $120 million budget, that's not a big money haul, but overseas it's going to be all money there. So there's obviously enough going on that, like I said, they've already greenlit a sequel, and supposedly there's actually 2 more films in the works. So we'll see what happens. But ultimately, I'm going to be one of those few guys that say, good job, Micheal Bay, Platinum Dunes, on not screwing up the Ninja Turtles. You might have screwed up a lot of other things with the film itself as a whole, but the Ninja Turtles you kept intact. You didn't mess with them outside of just how they looked, and actually I think I really like the look that you guys are going for. So this is one Turtles fan that is saying, cowabunga, good job, keep it up, and yeah, I don't know what else to say, but yeah, I'm happy for it. I want to hear what you guys think. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys are just going to tear me apart and say I don't know what I'm talking about, or no, whatever, and that's fine. I don't care. Like, I'm personally happy with this Turtles film, and a lot of other people that I've talked to, that they have said the same thing, is that, you know what, I expected way worse, and I'm actually happy with how it came out. It's not the best, but it's a watchable movie. It's an enjoyable film. You will laugh. You will enjoy seeing the Turtles fight. And so, yeah, but as far as everything else that goes with the film, I mean, I think they did a good job. I guess if one big critique I want to make, I guess I will point this out since I haven't, is that the one critique I will make is making the Turtles bulletproof. Really, I mean, that's the one thing that I will be like, really, okay, that was the one point in the film that kind of annoyed me. And I knew that was kind of coming though in the trailers, because they were showing, guns point blank range being shot at Donatello, and there's no way he's spinning his bow staff fast enough to block all the shots. But to make them bulletproof, again, I guess that's something too that you could really critique of, like, well, reptile skin is so hard, and their shell, and because they're mutated, this improved it. Like, so you can make an argument on why that's possible. But for the fact that they did do it, again, I guess it's a way to get out of the fact of how many films do guys get shot at, and all the bad guys are bad shots, and except the good guys are the only ones that can kill people in one shot. I guess that's what that maybe they're going with, is just establishing the fact that, like, yeah, they're bulletproof. That's why bullets don't stop them. That's why they can run into a guy that's shooting point blank range and not get hurt. Which then, again, you know, you can argue it either way, but personally, I kind of felt that was a little weak. But for the sake of the film, it worked, and whatever. If that's, as long as they keep that canon up later on in the films, that yeah, they're bulletproof, and maybe that's why they have to use lasers from Dimension X or something like that to stop them. We'll see. So anyway, like I said, good job on the Ninja Turtles. I personally enjoyed it. I want to hear what you guys think, so please comment below if you liked what I had to say, or if you didn't like what I had to say but you want to hear more. Please subscribe, and yeah, I'll have more reviews coming up here soon, but go see Ninja Turtles. I don't think you'll be disappointed, as long as you don't go in thinking you are going to get the classic Ninja Turtles. If you go in just thinking, I'm going to see a Ninja Turtles movie, you will be happy. If not, then yeah, you're going to be like all the other angry fanboys out there. All right, well, thanks a lot, guys. Check out nostalgicrow.com, and I'll talk to you later.